15 years, 6 unforgettable seasons, 3 films, and finally, the end of an era. Downton Abbey, the grand finale has arrived, and somehow it managed to be everything fans hoped for and more. But let's rewind a little, because this isn't just a story about a show ending, it's a story about what made Downton Abbey so special in the first place. When I was younger, my parents were obsessed with British period dramas. Sunday evenings were sacred, full of Austen adaptations, the BBC miniseries, the quiet charm of the English countryside, and a lot of tea. So when Downton Abbey first aired back in 2010, it felt like the start of something familiar yet entirely new. It was classy, emotional, and deeply human, a series that managed to make the lives of both the upper class and the servants equally fascinating. And from that first episode, I was hooked. For years, I followed the Crawley family through heartbreaks, scandals, and triumphs, until that gut-wrenching moment when Matthew died. I still remember sitting there, shocked, unable to believe they had done it. It was a turning point, not just for the show, but for so many fans. Something changed. The magic dimmed a little, and for a while, I fell off the wagon too. Then life went on. Seasons passed, 2 films came and went, and I barely paid attention. But recently, while getting swept up in the drama of Bridgerton, something clicked. Maybe it was nostalgia, or maybe it was the realization that Downton Abbey was the reason we even loved this genre in the first place. Either way, I decided to start over, from episode 1, and wow. The emotional weight hit harder this time around. Even knowing what was coming, I still flinched when Matthew's fate arrived. Yet I kept going, through the pain, through the joy, through all the high society gossip and quiet dignity that made the show so special. By the time I caught up with the 2 films, I was all in again, ready for one last journey. But I'll admit, walking into the theater for the grand finale felt bittersweet, because after all this time, I didn't want to say goodbye. Now, let's talk about that finale. First off, it's beautiful. Visually, emotionally, every frame feels like a love letter to the fans. The cinematography sparkles with life, full of light and color that modern films so often lack. Even in the gray tones of English estates, the screen felt warm and alive. The costumes, as always, were breathtaking. I'm no historian, but everything looked impeccable, elegant, grand, and deeply rooted in its time. The acting, classic Downton, slightly theatrical, perfectly poised, and just the right amount of melodrama. That's what makes it work. The characters feel timeless, their flaws and virtues larger than life, yet entirely human. And let's not forget the music. That score, haunting, emotional, and nostalgic, ties it all together. It's the sound of an era closing its doors. Story-wise, the film begins 2 years after the last one ended. A lavish party is underway at Lady Petersfield's townhouse, where the Crawleys, as always, are trying to maintain grace while navigating yet another social storm. The big shock? Mary's divorce from Henry Talbot. And yes, the fandom collectively cheered. It was overdue. Henry had clearly run his course, and this film wastes no time confirming that. He's written off with an almost cruel sense of irony, turned from a charming husband into a man tangled in scandal and deceit. Mary, meanwhile, faces judgment from everyone, her family, society, even strangers, for a decision that wasn't even her fault. It's classic Downton Abbey, love, loss, and reputation, all wrapped up in the rules of a world that refuses to bend. At the party, she's literally kicked out for being divorced, not exactly the high point of her social life. Lady Petersfield, desperate to impress the royals, throws her out without a hint of shame. Later, though, we see her panic when Lord Grantham snubs her at the races. Hypocrisy at its finest, and wonderfully written. Back home, tensions rise. Mary stays behind in London, preparing to meet her American uncle who brings along his financial advisor, Gus Sambrook, a man who seems charming at first but radiates something off. He and Mary share a brief romance, a spark that feels suspiciously too convenient. And sure enough, the story turns. Sam Brooke's true motives are far darker. He's a manipulative con man who's been bleeding her uncle dry, now eyeing Downton itself. What's brilliant here is how the movie plays with expectation. Just when you think it's another predictable romance, it twists, reminding us that Downton Abbey has always balanced beauty with heartbreak. Mary's arc becomes one of redemption and self-assurance. For once, she's not defined by a man or by scandal, but by strength. She stands her ground, faces humiliation, and proves she's capable of running Downton on her own terms. And yet the Crawleys can never escape financial trouble. It's almost tradition at this point. Harold's reckless investments in Argentina put the family's fortune at risk again, and the ghost of the Great Depression looms large. Sam Brooke, ever the predator, uses this as leverage, threatening Mary with blackmail to secure control of their remaining assets. But this time, the Crawleys fight back. Edith, Tom, and Mary unite, exposing his lies and sending him packing. It's satisfying, it's poetic, and it reminds us why these characters endure, because despite their flaws, they protect their own. By the end, Robert finally accepts that it's time to let go, both of the estate and of the past. Mary takes over the family's future, while Robert and Cora move into Violet's old house, closing the circle on a legacy that began generations ago. Of course, Downton Abbey wouldn't be complete without its beloved side stories. Molesley, now a screenwriter and a husband, has let success inflate his ego. His arrogance is almost painful to watch, but it's hilarious in the most Downton way possible. Eventually, humility finds him again, and his redemption feels earned. Meanwhile, Barrow finally gets his happy ending, a rare gift in a story that's often been cruel to him. Daisy, Carson, and Isabel join forces to outsmart a pompous county. Fair Chairman, a delightful side plot that brings humor and satisfaction in equal measure. And in the end, Mary stands before the local crowd, no longer shunned but celebrated, delivering a heartfelt speech that cements her place as the family's true leader. Then comes the moment that breaks everyone's heart, the quiet vision of Matthew, Sybil, and Violet. The ghosts of the past standing with Mary, reminding us that every ending carries the weight of those who came before. It's beautiful. It's emotional. It's Downton Abbey saying goodbye, not just to its characters, but to the audience who grew up with them. Sure, there are plot conveniences and a few predictable turns, but that's part of the charm. Because what really matters is that it feels right. The story comes full circle, the characters find peace, and the world of Downton closes its doors with grace. Will there ever be another film? Maybe one day, with an older Mary leading a new generation? But for now, this feels like the perfect farewell. After all the heartbreaks, scandals, and tears, Downton Abbey ends not with tragedy, but with hope. And in today's world, that's something worth celebrating. So yes, it's truly over. But it's also a reminder that great stories never really end. They just find new ways to live on. What did you think of Downton Abbey, the grand finale? Did it meet your expectations or leave you wanting more? I'd love to hear your thoughts.